How's it going, guys? In this video, I'm going to give you a closer look at my max steering angle mod. So you can see this T-mount I have here is mainly what I've been using to make this work. And you can see the clearance is pretty low. But there's really not a lot to this. It took me a lot of different designs to kind of get this where I wanted it. Because every little difference, whether you made it longer or wider or whatever, would make a huge difference on if the wheels would go all the way or if they would stay in sync. Like here's some of the original designs I started with. I tried to do it with one bearing and it was thin, but this didn't really work out. It would actually like kind of flex and kind of bounce up and down a little bit too much. So this didn't really work out. It was too thin of a design. So then I decided to go a little bit thicker and then add a second bearing. Kind of looks like a little hammerhead or something. But yeah, I'd have like one bearing on top and one bearing on bottom. So that would really stiffen it up right here where it swivels. And then I was trying to mount the arms a little bit closer and make the arms longer. And I was really not getting the results I was looking for, so I kept, trying different designs. I did go like even, skinnier and then like skinny and long. Because really I needed to get it far as I could this way without hitting my suspension. Because the further out you can get it to go, the more throw you can get the tires to, get almost all the way to 90 degrees or, the max angle you can get them. But eventually I started going wider and wider, and also just so I could test different spots and see which ones worked better. So then I would end up with this kind of version to where I'd have multiple different areas to test, whether closer or further away. And originally I was trying out some little arms that had like a little bit of a, I'd say about like almost like close to a 90-degree bend to them. And these are a little bit flimsy. They're not too strong, but they did work, but they, I don't know, they didn't really seem like they were sturdy enough. So, and also like when I would get it, like it almost would work with these, but then once I get it all the way maxed out over like to the 90 degrees or so, it would kind of get stuck and like locked, and I couldn't get it to release because once it got to the full area, it wouldn't want to let go. So I eventually, as you can see, went with a little straight arm. And like I've mentioned in other videos before, this was the original rear toe little arm that goes back here, but really back here now for mine. But this actually was like the perfect length to go all the way to the end of my little T-mount here, and then hook to the wheel hub. And it gave me it gives my tires a little bit of toe out, not too much, which is all I want. I really don't need much more than that. I just wanted a little bit of toe out. And they're actually, even though they're plastic, they're actually pretty strong. They're pretty solid for what they are. So these actually worked out really well. I mean, I would rather have like metal ones if I could, but the metal ones can be a little bit bulky. It's a little bit thicker, and I needed like as low as I can, because once I add the suspension, there's not much clearance underneath here to where, it can swing without getting snagged on these arms up here. And then also if the suspension goes down at all like that, I also need it to stay clear, when say it's going up and down. So there was minimal clearance in here, and this is just high enough to where it can get through there without hitting anything, regardless of the suspension going down or up or anything. So this is pretty much where I ended up with, and so far I'm staying with. Now this is not a perfect design. I'm not trying to say like this is the best mod out there, or it's better than the rest. There's other ones out there that are probably way better than this setup, but this is what I've been working on. And obviously, as you can see, I went through multiple different versions, and I mean, so far this is what I came up with. I might make some changes later on down the road that work better, but I was just getting tired of trying different things, and I just want something to at least somewhat work so I can get going with this thing, because obviously this build's been taking a long time, but I mean, I only have so much time to work on this, like on the weekends and whatnot. I can't spend as much time on this as I would like. I know everybody's excited to see this thing drive, as I am as well, but you know, you're just gonna have to be patient with me, and when this is done, it's done, and then I'll start driving it, of course. I got all the electronics and everything ready. Those won't take that long to put on here once I'm done, you know, and I also wanted to take everything apart so I could show you guys what I've done. If I just put everything on and just drove it, then I really wouldn't be able to take it apart and show you exactly what I did and, you know, how I did it. So there's a reason why I'm obviously taking this long to do it. I want to, you know, take my time, take it apart, show you each piece that I've worked on before I put it back together for good. And then, you know, you'll know exactly what I did. And if you have any questions, you can just go back, you know, to those videos and take a look at what I did. Now, I made some changes here. Before, I originally had a little plastic extension piece to make this taller, but I actually don't need it to be any higher. It works fine, even at the lower, you know, size of this horn, because it really doesn't need that much room to move to get the full range. So I don't need to extend this any higher up. And also that's good, because if I did extend it higher up and it goes too high, it'll actually start to hit like the windows and stuff of my car bodies. So I'd rather have this as low as I possibly could as well, which that worked out. And of course I did it pretty much all metal as best I could, so it'd be nice and sturdy. And you can see I use these little pieces that I've gotten from these you know, metal upgrades over the year. This one with the screw that goes through it is, you know, I put a screw all the way through into the 3D print here and use one of these little pieces of metal spacers that are for the suspension, the shocks. Yeah, these come with the shocks and the little metal kits. So I just use the extras to use as a little spacer. And I just put a screw, just screw the screw right down into the 3D print. And that's how I mount that part. And then I kind of had to make this one where I had to use one of these little ball heads in here, but with the recessed hole that I can screw into instead of the ones that have the screws, you know, the threading coming out like that. So this is good for the other side, since I have a screw going through the horn all the way to this mount. And it's pretty easy to just take on and off whenever I need to work on something, so that can be out of the way. And these are two spacers just to make up that room on there on the screw. And that's all there is to the servo horn to connect it to the T-mount. And you know, this is pretty sturdy, so it doesn't get like stuck or start bending or whatever. So if I was using some plastic ones, then they might start bending or not have enough torque to really, you know, push and pull this thing. So having metal here is you know, preferred, at least for me, you know. And then I just take this off real quick and show you the screw where I mounted it to the chassis. And it's just one little lock nut on top here. It keeps it on. Get it off. There we go. All right, and then I can remove this guy. Come on. I just put this little top piece of carbon fiber across the thing for my mounting of my electronics, and it's kind of getting in the way. But usually I wouldn't have that in the way when I'm working on this. All right. So yeah, I put these tiny little ball cups here on the ends, the shortest ones I could find, because obviously the shorter the better, since I don't have any room in there. If they were like the longer ones like this, those would be too tall, and they would definitely be hitting the top of my suspension there if I went with those. So I used the smallest ones. And I mean, I have all these things from, like I said, metal upgrade kits I've gotten over the years, different ones I bought where some of the pieces I could use, other parts are just garbage and I couldn't use them. So I tried to make use of everything I could. And these little ball heads, especially the ones with little hex you know, holes on top, so I can actually unscrew and screw, because there are some that don't have holes, like the ones that came with the original plastic. They don't actually have any you know, anything on top there, so you can't like unscrew and screw these with a screwdriver. So these can only really work with these plastic swing arms. I mean, I can screw them on with like some pliers or whatever, but anywhere else, like I wouldn't be able to use them inside these things, because I need to be able to, you know, unscrew and screw these. So that's something, you know, you find out, you know, over time. Well, you know, because these were the older ones, or these are actually the stock ones I think that came with the car, and then these were some of the older versions that came with the metal upgrade kits. So I mean, I just have a bunch of random parts that I just, you know, I made work with this build, and you might be able to find the same ones I have, you might not. So I mean, honestly, like if you can't make this work and you're happy with the plastic parts and everything, just stick with that. Like I'm not trying to tell you guys that you need to do this mod, or, you know, that this is something you have to do. I'm just doing this for, you know, for fun. Like a lot of the fun of this stuff is the building aspect of it. Like I enjoy tinkering and building these things. Like obviously drifting and driving it is definitely a big factor of the fun part of the hobby, but I'm also I like, you know, trying to engineer certain things and just problem solve and just make things work. So I mean, these WLToys cars, I mean, they got so many different flaws. You know, on the K969 K989, which are the older models now, the newer one that's coming out has fixed some of those flaws, but I wouldn't say that thing's perfect yet either. But, you know, and this is just something I like to do for fun on my free time. So, you know, I'm just here just to share this with you. Giving the 3D prints out is a difficult process. Like I can't just copy and paste the STL files. I need to actually like make an account, and then I got to go through the licensing problem. If I try to like upload the STL files through Google Chrome or anything like that, there's a risk of actually having my data extracted from those STL files and stuff. So it's kind of risky, and I'm not really into that. I'm not, you know, especially with all these different people that come to my channel from all over the world. It's like, it's kind of, you know, a risk I'm not sure if I'm willing to take right now. And then I don't really want to see people taking my prints and then also going and selling them on Etsy and stuff too. It's like, you know, I've been working on these things for months, and then seeing somebody else just take them and sell them online kind of sucks. You know, it's not the biggest deal, but it's whatever. But maybe I'll sell them. If I do sell them, I'll sell them for cheap, like a couple bucks or something. But I just don't want people ripping off my designs and just selling and making a profit when they didn't really do any work. You know, it's kind of not fair to me. But then again, I mean, I'm here showing you all this stuff in these videos so you can see how I did it. And if you want to try to replicate it at home and do your own, like you can do that all you want. Like I'm not holding anybody back from doing that. I'm just showing you how I did it. And if you want to try to replicate it, you know, you're more than welcome. I have no problem with that. But down the road, I'll see if I can get the STL files out there for the public, so you guys can just, you know, take them and make them yourself. But I'm not really sure how I'm gonna do it yet. So, I mean, just be patient, please. And then, you know, if I drop the files, then I drop them. So, yeah. So that's basically all there is to this little T-mount design. There's not much else. On the chassis, I just have the screw going through. I have a little plastic washer here that is just to help make sure I get enough clearance to where it doesn't start scraping along here. So, you know, as I showed you before, it clears by like a millimeter or two, and that's all I really needed. I use a lock nut to lock this screw into place, and that also helps bring it up like 3 to 4 millimeters to where I need it to be. And then of course with the washer on top of that. And then I just, you know, I drilled a hole directly in the center, and I also kind of drilled out around the area with some, you know, the material around the area, so the head of the screw can kind of sit down flat and the screw head is not sticking out like a couple millimeters and scraping on the bottom when it's time to start driving it. I kind of grinded down on the head a little bit too, just to get it to be a little bit flatter. So I can't grind through the material too much, otherwise the screw will just fall right through the carbon. So I think it's about 25 millimeters across, if I remember. Yeah, roughly 25 millimeters. And so you're gonna need to put the screw at 12.5 millimeters to be right in the center of this area here. Now, I kind of just did it to where it was right out in front of the servo horn. You can see where the servo is there. And I forgot exactly how far away. I think I measured kind of like from this point, like this corner where the carbon starts to curve there and there. And then I maybe went up like a couple millimeters from that spot. Let's see, probably about 4 or 5 millimeters from this point where it starts to curve out this way. And then that put me out in front of the servo horn, so the servo horn can get enough leverage. You don't have to do it this way either. I've seen people put the screw further up and then have a mount for this, like instead of the screw being here in front, like you can make a piece protruding from the back here, and then have this screw go behind the 3D print, and then push it back and forth on the back end of it instead of out in front of it. So there's different ways you can do it. I just went with this way because it just seemed like, seemed easier, just seemed like, the method I wanted to try first. And I just stuck with it since it's working. But there's obviously different ways you can do this. You don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. This also gives you an idea how the suspension, the bottom plate mounts. And then as you can see, I've been making these metal swing arms work in the front here because I just wanted to get rid of the plastic ones, because these plastic ones, I mean, they were great, but they're a little bit flimsy. Like there's too much wiggle and stuff in there, and I wanted to get rid of that, and these metal ones took care of that issue. And then these ball heads, like I needed them to really lean in pretty far, and then if I eat away too much material on this plastic, these ball heads will pop out of place. So as great as the plastic ones are, they definitely have some issues for the mods that I'm doing. You might not need to be doing any of this stuff, so these plastic ones will probably work fine for you, especially if you're running stock. Then you don't need to do this. But I also have some gripes about these new metal swing arms. They are better than the old ones, but they do have some flaws as well. There's some slop where the ball head is inside the joint there, and I kind of didn't notice that at first, but yeah, you see how they can move up and down? Well, I don't like that extra movement in there, so to fix that, you gotta pinch it on the sides, and then it won't go up and down anymore. But you'll still have the back and forth motion. It actually gets a little bit more range, side to side this way now, which is actually what I need. I don't need movement going left to right. I just need going front to back. So pinching the sides there keeps the ball from going up and down anymore, but you still keep that range of motion, and it actually helps increase the range of motion. And if I'm gonna need any more range of motion, I would just take my Dremel and then just eat away a little bit of material in here or there, and then it could lean further back like I did on these. I drilled away all the material in this area so they can lean back like as far as I need them to. As you can see, they can lean back, if I can get this thing to focus right, they can lean back really far. And that's what I needed for the front. I needed a little bit in the back, but I needed more range of motion in the front. And to get rid of that sloppy motion in there, I had to Dremel out material here and here, and then I took my vice grips and then I just pinched the metal together there, and that actually got the ball head to stop moving up and down. So now it's pretty solid, but I can still rock it back and forth, no problem. Like it doesn't get snagged. Like you do got to manipulate it a lot to get it to really move freely without getting snagged or anything. But I got them working pretty good now. I'm definitely not recommending doing all this stuff. I know some of you guys are going to be like, oh, you don't want to get in, even get into that because it looks like a pain in the ass, and it is. But if you want to, get these front arms, the metal ones at least, to be working like this is what you have to do. Otherwise, you can try using them the way they are, stock or whatever, but you're going to have a little bit of slop in here, and it's you can get away with that, but I don't like that extra bit of movement in there. That's that's not really good. You want them to be, you know, kind of stationary to where they don't like move up and down on their own, because it kind of messes with the suspension a little bit. But like I said, all this stuff you don't have to do. Like, this is just stuff that I wanted to do because I just wanted to kind of, I wouldn't say perfect everything, but kind of get it the way that I want it to work, get rid of all those little flaws, and this is what I had to do. And of course I grinded down a little bit of the material here so it could clear the ground a little bit when it goes all the way down. And then of course I had to shave off the metal side, you know, metal on the sides, so when the tires go, you know, full 90 degrees, they don't rub on either side of this like the stock ones. You can see how much bigger. And just so you know, these are getting harder to find now. Like, I tried ordering more and they sent me these, which are just like the old version where you put the screw through there. Now this one has the hole cut out and everything like the other version I just had, but now they're putting these in here again where you have to put the screw through, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And I got this from the same seller that sold me the first set of these with the actual little ball heads in there. And then I guess they ran out of that model, and then they started sending this model out without even, you know, telling me. They didn't even change the pictures, so I thought I was gonna get these again. So I'm not really happy about that. So be careful if you're trying to order these, especially if I think there's only like one seller that was selling these by themselves on AliExpress, and he's not selling this version anymore. He's selling this one now, and he didn't change the pictures. It looks like these and not these, so be careful if you do try to buy these. You might not get the right version. It's pretty annoying. So the only place to actually get this version again is if you buy a whole kit with the top arms and the suspension springs and everything. That's the only place so far that I've seen that still sells these with the little ball heads in there. Otherwise, I mean, I'm actually gonna keep these because I can just drill out the material around there, kind of like how this one is, and I can pop the ball head out, or I can pop this out and put a new ball head in there, because I gotta pinch these closed anyway to keep them from rocking up and down. So I'm gonna drum off material on the sides and then pinch it, so I can actually remove the ball head and then replace it with a different one. You know, for this one, just take that out and put a new ball head in, and then pinch the sides together, and then I can make these work. But if you don't have time to do any of that, if you don't even have the little ball heads to put in here, then this is just going to be a waste for you. So be careful if you do buy any of the metal ones not to get this version, because this is garbage. And the other thing is, when I got the metal kit, I have the like these shocks from like a year ago or so that I got from a metal kit, and the older version that I have is actually taller than this newer version, which I didn't realize at first. So be careful if you do buy these. I mean, if this matters to you at all. For me, it did matter because of my rear suspension. The mod that I did is designed for these taller springs, and not the shorter one. So if I were to use this 3D print I made for the rear suspension to work with these shocks, then these would be too short, and I would have to modify it at least 2 millimeters to go further down, and I don't really have a lot more space to go down with this mod. So I'd probably have to bring the arm out to the side more, and then maybe I could use them. So I'd have to make this whole bracket, this whole mounting bracket, wider to get these springs to go all the way down. They need to get all the way down, because when they lean in, I can make them work with a longer one. So a shorter one would be too short, so if I lean the shock out, I can actually make this work. But I don't feel like redesigning that, and so far it works fine with these older shocks that I have. So that's just another a thing I found out along the way while I was working on all these things. So yeah, that's basically all there is to this T-mount. Not much else to it. Just a 3D print. The little bearings I have in here, they're 5 millimeter wide with a 2 millimeter hole. So you can use M2 screws, that, you know, same size screws that pretty much go with everything. And then you have to find some arms to use. Like I said, I used the little toe arms from the rear, and then some kind of mounting method to get some good leverage on the T-mount to go to the servo horn. Like I said, you might not have these parts, so you can just use what you have, see what you have laying around, and just mix and match things and just get something that's sturdy enough that the servo horn can move this T-mount without any interference, you know. Just make sure it's strong enough. And then, like I said, I have different little arms. Like I might try to see these work again. But yeah, you can do them straight, you can do them like kind of at an angle. You might just, you know, try a couple different things and see what works for you. I had to make these, and they have really thin screws holding them together, so it's not very sturdy. I don't really like these, to be honest, but I don't really have much else to use to make another kind of set like this. So I'm pretty limited when it comes to the little arms that attach to these wheel hubs. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I tried drilling out some material on the wheel hubs too, to try some longer arms. So when the arm, when the wheel hub goes almost 90 degrees, the arm would hit right here when I use longer arms and like a shorter T-mount, kind of like this style. So when it would pull in here, the longer arm sometimes would start interfering with the wheel hub here. So I was trying to, you know, maybe cut away some of that material, make it work. And I mean, it kind of worked, but it really wasn't the best method. I didn't really like doing that. That's why if you do have that, you can try to get some little arms that you can bend a little bit of an angle to it so they can kind of swing around. But I did get full range sometimes with these, but like I said, they would get locked. They would get stuck and I couldn't get them to release. So it wasn't always the best. I mean, to be honest, I got the best range of motion where both wheels would hit full 90 degrees with like these angled arms, but then they would get locked in at the full length and I couldn't get them to release. So that was a big pain in the ass to figure out that. But this method, like I can get one tire all the way 90 and the other one at like, you know, 80 degrees or whatever, almost full, you know, 90, which is fine anyway. And then they release no problem with this setup. They don't get snagged or stuck. So I just stuck with this, and so far, I mean, I like it. Once I get all the electronics on and start test driving it, is really going to be the deciding factor if this is the best method that I'm going to use. If I if I run into any issues, I might redesign this and make it different. And that's another thing. Before I give the STL files away, I'm not even 100% sure this is going to work out that great. So I don't want to give a bunch of files out there that are not really going to work out for everybody, and then everybody's getting mad at me because my 3D prints aren't working the way you wanted them to. So I'll just do some testing and then I'll let you know if this is the best method or not. So that's really all I have to cover for now. I'll make another video here soon for the mounting, for the bodies and stuff, and then the next couple videos after that are going to be putting the electronics on and stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed what I went through this time, and I will see you guys in the next video.